Today we're going to go speak to someone called Mark about what's happening at Kangaroo Point. There's like 120 refugees stuck or held in a hotel in Kangaroo Point. It's so hard to believe when you see it for yourself. That's literally why I'm finding out more, because I rocked up there on Sundown and I was like, what the hell? Like, this is so weird. It's like a prison.
We begin with breaking news. Police are right now moving in as hundreds of protesters surround a Kangaroo Point hotel. This is day 38 of the protesters' campaign.
A weekly gathering that is growing in size and strength.
Protesters were arrested yesterday after a sit-in here outside a hotel housing 120 asylum seekers.
Some of the men have been in detention for 7 years, almost a third of their life.
They should not think for a moment that they are part of one of the world's great protest movements.
Why did you decide to sit on the road? Did you have the right permits?
Just another example of these lefties with their causes thinking they're above the law.
A refugee protest planned for tomorrow in the heart of Brisbane has been banned by the Supreme Court.
Organisers are determined next weekend's sit-in will go ahead.
The idea that any activist group, for whatever reason, can decide that they want to take over the streets, that's not the country that you and I live in.
There's around 120 men held in the hotel, and they're mostly being kept two to a room. They are only allowed out of their rooms and walkways for an hour or so a day to exercise in the car park. Only some of the men are able to actually get out on the balconies. People see the men on the balconies and they're like, oh, those are the refugees there. But actually there's a lot more who are stuck in their rooms and they don't even have access to the balconies. The men in this hotel aren't allowed to leave the compound. They're limited to only a few hours of exercise a day. One man, his wife and son, they've been settled as refugees in Brisbane and they're living in the community, and she comes here and waves at him regularly from across the fence, but she's not allowed to hug him or talk to him or get close to him.
A couple of weeks ago, I tell my story from here. I have separated with my wife 2017 until now. Until now, I don't sleep with my son. They separate and they take from me medical issue to Brisbane. Please, I want to unite them. I want to see my family again.
It's not like these men have committed a crime and they've been sentenced and they're serving their time and then they'll be released. There is no release date. There is no plan for these men to be released or to relocate to a third country. They are in indefinite detention, which essentially means forever.
For ages you could drive past that hotel and wouldn't know anything was happening. The lady next door didn't know it was a detention centre, and she'd living next door to it for a year or so. You've got these people offshore, and over those 7 years, you've had people who have got so ill that the medical facilities on Nauru and PNG couldn't handle them. They were able to get this legislation, what they call the Medivac legislation, through the Parliament. A few hundred people came via that law. At some point they made a decision, no more, and we're going to start warehousing people in the hotels. Vast majority of them have been processed and been found to be refugees, so you can't send them back to Iran or Sri Lanka, back to persecution. That's internationally recognised right that they have. But the government just continues to detain them in a hotel.
Haven't been here for a little bit, but we're coming down just to get a little bit of an update.
This is actually some rooms here with refugees, and you can see one waving out there through the doors. These rooms here, the doors are all locked. They're stuck in their rooms and they don't have access to the balconies at all. One of the most beautiful parts of Brisbane City, right next to the river, is just 100 metres down the road. It's crazy that they've been here for a year and they've never been able to access that part of Brisbane. A few streets down the road, there's actually a detention centre and they're there indefinitely. Some guys got access to balconies, so they started protesting.
Okay, so they're just kind of stuck in limbo.
Yeah.
Indoors.
Yeah.
I knew about the Christmas Island.
Yeah.
But I didn't know that people could be detained in Australia indoors.
Honestly, I had no idea that it was happening, and so close to home as well. No human should be locked up against their will when there are significantly better options. Like, there really is. There's so many better things we could be doing.
So just been walking down Kangaroo Point, getting a few people's reactions, seeing if they even knew about it. Most people didn't know that they were being held there. Everyone's reactions have been, why are they still in there? Why are they actually getting locked up? And when we say it's indefinite, everyone's reactions are the same. It's just like, what the fuck?
I think they were encouraged to see me in a clerical, whatever their religion or religious views, to see a sign of somebody from outside supporting all the people in detention who are not only not guilty, not sentenced, but are actually not accused of any crime. I mean, you have to keep bearing this in mind. Perhaps this is part of the reason why people don't want to get involved, because once you start, I can't see myself stopping coming to visit.
These men have fled war zones and political persecution in other regions. So they've already got some serious trauma from that. Then they've been held in indefinite detention for 7 years in pretty crappy conditions. Even if you want to keep them in detention, you could at least let them go for a walk down the block once a day, or let them go to the cliffs to look at the river. These facilities are not a great place for someone who's experiencing mental health issues. The longer we keep them in there, the worse their condition deteriorates, and the harder it is for them to adjust once they do eventually get let back out again.
Another aspect of the difficulty of the fellas is a feeling that whenever they do speak their mind or speak out or appear in public, that this is counted against them. When their case comes up to review, they say, "Oh, this fella has been an outspoken person."
It costs about $300,000 per person per year to hold them in what are called alternative places of detention, like this Kangaroo Point hotel. They don't want to be here. They don't want to be wasting Australian taxpayer money either. They'd rather be in the community working and contributing to society.
The PNG government have said years ago they wanted the detention centres closed. You know, they're sick of it. So I don't even think the PNG government would accept them back. In the short term, if the government starts to putting people out of the hotel and into community detention, you know, that would be a step forward, you know.
Yes.
We want to see them out of that hotel. It's a terrible situation to be in. You know, like you've got people who have been in quarantine for 2 weeks in a hotel and driving them up the wall. Well, you know, these guys have been there for a year.